So in today's video, I did want to talk about the new look Utah Jazz. Now, over the past 3 games, admittedly, the competition hasn't been the most stout. We played the Memphis Grizzlies, the Portland Trailblazers, and last night, the Phoenix Suns. That being said, we've rolled out an interesting lineup due to the injury of Walker Kessler and the subpar play of THT, which made things a little bit more spicy, dare I say. Now, I was hesitant to make this video originally because we played the Memphis Grizzlies and the Portland Trailblazers. If you're a Utah Jazz team that believes they can make the play-in tourney and then eventually the playoffs, you definitely believe that you should be able to handedly beat these teams. Well, we only beat Memphis by 6 points after blowing them out the first time. Against the Portland Trailblazers, it was a much more handed win, winning by 16 and holding the team to the lowest score in quite some time, in which the Portland Trailblazers only scored 99 points to our 115. But the game that really made me want to go ahead and make this video was the fact that we held our own against the Phoenix Suns in a shootout. Now, if you know anything about the Utah Jazz lately, overall across the entirety of the season, we haven't shot well from the three-point line or from the field to begin with. This in part because of Jordan Clarkson's expectations to be a playmaker, which in turn ended up hurting his efficiency from the field, and just the fact that a lot of our players were shooting shots that they probably shouldn't have been taking or probably should have been making and just simply weren't. With that in mind, the bright spots always tended to be John Collins and Lauri Markkanen, because Lauri was shooting one of the most efficient and high volume sample sizes from beyond the arc, and though it has toned down over these past couple games and I would like for it to go back up to those 9 to 10 range per game because of his efficiency, he still has been one of the more efficient shooters in the league, and therefore he helped levy and anchor this offensive load. With that being said, the unsung hero who I've been known to rag on a little bit from time to time, and rightfully so, Jordan Clarkson, has become the man of the hour. Now, last night against the Phoenix Suns, he shot way more shots than Lauri in the beginning of the first half, and Lauri only ended up entering the halftime with 8 points. Now, this was a little bit unhappy to me personally because he had only shot in the single digits as far as field goals went, while Jordan Clarkson was pushing 16. Now, Jordan Clarkson was hitting his shots, which is why I found it acceptable and why we were able to go into halftime tied at 75 apiece. Now, for a lot of people, they would say, well, the defense just wasn't getting played. There was no defense in this game. Everybody was terrible on defense. And that's not quite the case, particularly for Ochai Agbaji, who was handedly the #1 guy spearheading that perimeter defense for the Utah Jazz. With his increased minutes, you're seeing a lot more strong rotations and just a lot more ball-heavy dominance as far as defense goes. Jordan Clarkson has even stepped up his game. Now, we would like him to be a little bit more locked in on defense, but when he's being as efficient as he is from the field on offense, we have to go ahead and give credit where credit is due, because this was a long time coming. There was a lot of ugly games that led to this point. Now, across the past 3 games, to give an overall synopsis of what's been going on, the Utah Jazz have gone 2-1, obviously beating the Memphis Grizzlies and the Portland Trailblazers, but losing a little bit of a heartbreaker against the Phoenix Suns. Now, in those games, we're averaging 123 points on offense, 43 rebounds, 27 assists, 123.3 points per game, to go along with 43 rebounds, 27 assists, 8 steals, 9.3 blocks, 13 turnovers, while hitting 42.7 out of the 85.3 field goal attempts, which works out to 50% from the field, while also going 40.5% from the three-point line by shooting 15.7 for 38.7. Now, from the free throw line, our free throws are also looking right-handedly, going 22.3 for 25, which works out to 89.3% of them going in. For personal fouls, we're at 19.3. Wraith, you just said a whole bunch of numbers. What does this mean? The simple fact of the matter is, we have been a significantly better team. Even if we take the sample size of us playing against the Phoenix Suns as the only one, admittedly the Phoenix Suns aren't the most terrific defensive team, but they're known to be an offensive juggernaut that simply beats other teams into submission. Now, they are improved up to 6-6 with the win against us, but that isn't truly indicative of how well they play. And honestly, once Bradley Beal comes back, they're going to be an even more potent offense, capable of quite honestly possibly hitting 140 points on a nightly basis. Now, of course, the reason for the loss more so hinged on the fact that Kevin Durant decided to have another one of his most perfected virtuoso games of his entire NBA career at the age of 35. And as somebody that was rooting for the Utah Jazz, you hated to see it. But at the same time, people were there, people were getting a hand up, and he was just being the Kevin Durant that we knew and loved for the entirety of his career. Now, an important thing to note is the fact that against the Phoenix Suns, who aren't nearly as rough of a defensive team or offensive team as the Portland Trailblazers or the Memphis Grizzlies, we actually posted our lowest number of turnovers in a game all season, and the first time under double figures. we only had 8. And when you compare that to us still having our roughly average over the past 3 games, having 27 assists in that game, that's a much better average as opposed to what we're used to seeing with previous lineups. Now in this lineup, we have Ochai Agbaji, Lauri Markkanen, Keyonte George, John Collins, and Jordan Clarkson. Now to round out the bench, obviously we have Colin Sexton, Kelly Olynyk, THT, Fontecchio, and Chris Dunn played a couple seconds in the most recent game, but he's kind of fallen out of the rotation. Important things to pay attention to for this historic lack of turnover game would be the fact that Keyonte George and Talen Horton-Tucker both had 3 apiece of those 8 turnovers, which amounts to 6. The other 2 were attributed to Kelly Olynyk and Fontecchio both having 1. Now the difference in those is the fact that THT played in only 19 minutes and had 4 assists to go along with his. For Keyonte George, he played in 29 minutes and had 6 assists, which was much more preferred, though it is a little bit different from the previous 2 games where you saw him just put assist upon assist upon assist while having 1 and 2 turnovers apiece across those 2 games. Overall, the most important takeaways from this are going to be the high shooting field goal percentage for the Utah Jazz, the high clip that we're hitting from 3, the lack of turnovers, and the overall willingness to go bucket for bucket with other teams. Particularly against the Phoenix Suns, who a lot of people thought we had no business standing on the court with, considering the last time where they essentially 30-pieced us. Now with that in mind, also recognize that we don't have Walker Kessler back from injury, and once he comes back, things should shake up just a little bit more as we expect him to probably start. Some people were playing with the idea of moving John Collins to the bench since he seems to play well regardless of whoever's on the floor alongside him. Across the entire sample size of games this season, he's been one of the most stellar pieces that you can just plug and play with any lineup, and he's gotten the job done. Defensively, there's been some question marks surprisingly with him because he always seems to be the guy that's doing his job on offense that you don't really catch when he makes a late rotation or he doesn't get the good contest at the rim. That being said, I like the fit of him alongside all the players on the roster, so it is something to keep in mind. Having Ochai Agbaji on the court is important for that perimeter defense because if you're not going to play Chris Dunn, the next perfected guy to spearhead that attack on the defensive side of the ball is going to be Ochai because of his size, length, and just cerebral intelligence on that side of the ball. When you have Keyonte George, he's improving his team defense, and while he's not the best just yet, he is showing strides that are light years ahead of what he was doing game 1 and game 2, and particularly during the preseason when you saw him get his real first taste of NBA action. Jordan Clarkson has seemed more motivated on the defensive side of the ball, and I believe that has to be attributed to his offensive upside that he's been providing lately with his shot-making skill. When you take away the fact that he's not being required to be a playmaker, that extra bit added on top of his game, he's allowed to just play what he normally does. When he won that 6th Man of the Year trophy, it wasn't because he was being a great playmaker. It was because he was getting buckets and it was pushing the needle. Similarly, him making buckets now is going to push the needle and keeps us in contests that previously you wouldn't have expected us to. Now, against the Phoenix Suns, it looked like it was a winnable game throughout the entire thing because everybody was doing their pieces. Obviously, Lauri Markkanen ended up coming on late in the 3rd quarter and kind of disappeared towards the 4th quarter just because we didn't get him involved as much, and that's something that we're going to have to work on, and that comes down to coaching from Will Hardy's standpoint. But across the totality of the past 3 games, I'm loving what I'm seeing from this Utah Jazz team. We will end up having a non-tournament game on Sunday night against the Phoenix Suns again for our 3rd time matching up against them this season, and that will really tell us the tale of whether or not this is just a fact that we want to be an in-season tourney team or if this is genuinely a believable sample size, because then at that point you can't say that the Memphis Grizzlies and the Portland Trailblazers are dumpster fire teams in the Western Conference and those games shouldn't be admitted. If we can play and go toe-to-toe again with the Phoenix Suns for a 2nd time after a day break, I have reason to believe that this is the new look Utah Jazz and we can expect this team to win significantly more games, particularly against teams that are in the middle of the Western Conference playoff picture for games to come. And once Walker Kessler comes back, that might show a little bit of an adjustment for those boys. But I believe that ultimately, with the coach that we have in place and with the improvements of Keyonte George, the consistent play of John Collins, the plug-and-play ability of Lauri Markkanen, who can go off like a stick of dynamite at any given moment, the spearheaded defense of Ochai Agbaji, and the improved shooting touch and efficiency of Jordan Clarkson, I believe this team is geared to make that push that we've been expecting them to do all season. Thanks for tuning into this video. As always, it's your boy Ray Hoops. Make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts below. Let me know how you feel about this most recent burst on offense and defense for the Utah Jazz. Let me know who you think the potential starter should be when Walker Kessler comes back. And if you want to support the channel, go ahead and subscribe, turn on those post notifications. And if you're already subscribed, join the members and get the videos a little bit earlier than everybody else does, and partake in the suggestion of videos and live streams. With that being said, thanks for tuning into this video. And as always, good morning, good evening, good night, no matter where you are on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.